Hi, everybody. This is Gina Cavalier. This is the Liberated Healer podcast, and I have a very interesting guest today. Her name is Jayne Sanders. She's a master scientific hand analysis. She's been featured in Forbes about her work. She reveals your purpose and special gifts and blind spots, and guides you into inspiring meaning and action to take to make your life even better. When she's not doing her purpose, Jayne can be found on the trail with her beautiful horses. I read a lot of her book, Twists, Turns, and Truths. I have right here, and a lot of her stories that I really connected deeply with horses. And anybody who works with horses has my heart. So welcome, Jayne. Hi.
Hi, Gina. So nice to be here. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. I was really gravitating towards having this conversation with you because as a kid, I really remember people talking about palm readings, and my mother did it, and people around me did it. And when I saw your information come in, I was like, wow, I haven't really talked to anybody about this kind of thing. So, why don't you just jump in and kind of like let us know a little bit, how you got to doing hand analysis? I mean, that's just so interesting.
It's a weird thing. Yeah, it's not very common. I actually, after a corporate background, and then I had a speaking business, I kept hitting walls where I just wasn't happy anymore. And I really felt everybody has a purpose, and I didn't know what mine was. And so I started a very pointed search on Google for how can I find my life purpose, and went down couple of wrong paths, but eventually found a headline for a teleseminar, and it said, "Discover your innate life purpose." And oh man, I couldn't punch that link fast enough. And the first words I saw were hand analysis, and I was really disappointed because I was like, palm reading is fun, but it's not going to give me what I need. And then I saw the word scientific. And that one word helped me put aside my anal corporate MBA skepticism. I listened to that teleseminar, made a lot of sense to me, and I really wanted my purpose. So I had it done. And Gina blew my mind. I mean, just blew my mind. It was like, oh my God, my whole life. No wonder I liked that, but I didn't like that. And no wonder that worked, but that didn't work. And I mean, it just was so deep and inspiring and um, freaky accurate. Even things I hadn't thought about before, I knew were right. And I didn't know what my purpose work looked like, but I knew my purpose was right because it's not a job description. That would be cuckoo. Um, but I knew if I took action on the information, I would find my way and, just be led by the universe. And that's exactly what happened. I just was getting more and more clarity and got into a coaching group. And within a few months, I was like, if I was so lit up and inspired before I even knew what to do with the information, I want to help people feel like that.
Yes, absolutely. And now's the right time, I think. And early on you mentioned, which I found very interesting, that the lines in your hands, they mimic the pathways in your brain, and that's
Mhm.
really interesting, so people can understand why is this important and connected. Also, that the lines can change and grow except for your fingertips,
Right.
and then also that the fingertips are formed in utero 14 to 16 weeks. So, and they, since they don't change, and you mentioned your book, luckily for the FBI, that would be really hard. But, so can you tell us what maybe you found why fingertips would not change, but the rest of your hand can change?
Fingerprints.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. I mean, yeah, you're right. Just think if they did, the FBI would be in deep doo doo, right? Because they form before you're born and then never change throughout your life. And we get a lot of information, the core of who you are, from your fingerprints, which means that part of you will never change other things about you and other things in your hands may change. Why they don't change and other things do, I don't know. I just think that's the way spirit
Yeah.
made things happen. I mean, the gurus, the spiritual gurus say that 14 to 16 weeks is when the soul enters the embryo. So you could say that your soul brings in your purpose.
Neat. Okay. So, can you tell us a little bit more about the different parts of the hand analysis then?
Sure, there's so many lines, there's so many markings,
Yeah.
and everything means something. So I look at everything. Now, do be aware that I'm a master, which means I've just done over 1,000, and I've done well over 1,000. Um, and I'm also as highly certified as possible. So I'm level 4, which is certified to teach it. So I've been doing this a while. I've seen lots of different markings and hands. And it is amazing how, people react the same way I did. They're just like, oh my God, this explains so much. This is so helpful. And they use the words freaky accurate,
Yeah.
which is why Forbes wrote about it. But let's say if you're looking at your hand now, so certainly we look at all the fingerprints, and I would say about 75% of my clients have 1 or 2 or 3 fingerprints in their palms and don't even know it. But why would they? And those are formed the same time the others are and never change. So they're just as important. Also, let's say the top horizontal line that starts under your pinky and goes across the top of your hand. Sometimes it's straight, sometimes it's curved. But that is your heart line, which is your relationship style, how you communicate in relationship, how you express love and affection, how you want love and affection expressed to you. Now, it's one of the more general markings. There's only 4 types of relationship styles. And oftentimes people have more than one. So,
And does it matter if it's the left hand or the right hand?
well, I would need to look at both.
Okay.
Because your right hand might be different than your left hand. Sometimes they're the same, sometimes they're different. And they always start underneath the pinky, but where they end tells me your relationship style. Can you tell me where yours ends?
I don't have anything under my pinkies. They start way down here.
Relax your hand just a little bit. No, it is under your pinky.
Oh.
Yeah. And yours, does it go up in front of is it closer at the, yeah, trace it with your finger. It's where I can see it.
Oh.
Yeah. Does it go up in front of the middle finger?
Oh, yeah, right here, I guess.
No, it wouldn't go there. I can see it going further.
Okay.
See, and does it bop up then? Does yours
Yeah.
come up and bop up then?
Yep.
Right about there in front of
Yep.
your middle finger right there.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's called a passionate.
Mm-hmm.
And a passionate is somebody who's just passionate about life. I mean, and they're very exuberant. They are enthusiastic. They know how to have fun. They can be the life of the party. People love being around them because they're so much fun. They can be a little dramatic, which is part of what makes them fun. And passionates want what they want, and they want it now. And they'll figure out how to get it. No, it's a good thing. And they'll figure out how to get it. And they model for others how to ask for what you want, because people need to ask for what they want. And passionates on the master path know how to do that, as opposed to other people that just drop hints or are a little passive aggressive, indirect.
Yeah. How many master paths are there?
Well, every marking, I was going to come to that after I heard myself say master path. Every marking has both a master path and a student path.
Okay.
Master path is where you want to be. It feels good. The more master paths you're on, the easier it is to live in alignment with your innate purpose. And that's the only way to that deeper joy and fulfillment that everybody wants. Every marking also has a student path, and it can show up different ways, but student paths, I call them the yuckies. They can be little yuckies or big yuckies. Feeling bored, stuck, overwhelmed, confused, frustrated, procrastinating, lost, off track, angry, sad, depressed, money problems, relationship issues, career confusion, anything that just didn't working right. There's at least one student path involved. And the key, here's the kicker. Nobody can be on any master path 100% of the time.
Nobody can be.
No, we're works in progress.
Yeah.
Even me, I teach it. I see myself on student paths all the time. But the key is when you see it, take action. That's the actionable part of scientific hand analysis and why it's so powerful, because it tells you, I can't tell where you are master to student path. I just know you're going to be on both.
Yeah.
And what I tell people is what the master paths look like, so you know what to strive for, and what the student paths look like, so you can be more aware when you're on them, and that awareness then gives you the power to do something about it if you want.
I love this as a potential way for people to find their life path, because it can be very fogging and confusing if you've been stuck in something for a really long time. And then we also have, past traumas or wounds and fears. And then we have the environment around us, the world around us, and that is a level of fears as well. And we also have programming, as in where you're supposed to be at a certain age, or things like that. And all of this information is stuck in this brilliant mind of ours, this computer that's just trying to do its best to, spit out information, but it can turn into like a vicious, album playing over and over again in your. And that's the reason why I created the show, and what I like that you're doing, because it's, when you said you got grabbed on when it said science, like,
Yeah.
I understand that,
Yeah.
because I really understand that people need to have that information, and so whatever kind of things make it scientifically possible, or
Yeah. Well, just the way that the information was put together. So the gentleman that created this spent 40 years.
that's
And
a master path.
that's also being very anal, but I'm so glad. And also analyzed over 30,000 hands to put this database together. It's very robust and very reliable. And he wrote a book about the fingerprints part of it. And a neurosurgeon from Stanford wrote the foreword to that book, because he was using scientific hand analysis with his patients.
This is really beautiful. I'm writing a book for the Swedenborg Foundation about how to heal suicidal ideation, and I feel very wanting to help my fellow humans when they're going through really hard parts of their life, and you need hope.
Yes.
Sometimes when you've just been kicked around, and this world can be dark and heavy at times. It's not meant to be that, but it can be heavy. And to get out of the heaviness, we need to help each other. And I think you're doing your part, I'm doing my part, and we're all just doing little bits of parts, right? But something like this is very simple. You don't have to overthink, and they can hand it off to you. I saw your little video on how to, get the carbon paper and how you can send it all into you, so it can all be done virtual and online, and you don't have to like travel and do that. But when you're feeling that and that much despair, something like this can really take someone out of that space and give them hope and make them understand that all those little things that seem to be roadblocks were meant to help them go into the master path, right?
Yeah, it's part of our path. Yeah, this helps people see the best they can be. This is the best version of you. If you take all the master paths, this is the best version of you. So, I love being able to tell people that. And, I've had a couple people that didn't react well, usually that weren't at all self-aware. But for the most part, people who are attracted to this are self-aware and want to be more self-aware and want to grow and want to be the best they can be and want to make the difference they're meant to make in the world. So the vast majority, 99.9%, always feel better after this because they see their potential and they know where to go and they know what to do about it. And it just makes sense of their life, the patterns that they've experienced and where they've tripped and where they've gotten stuck. So it's very powerful. I love doing it for people. I love it.
And those people that didn't respond, maybe one day, it will kick in, and they, when they're ready for it a little bit more. So I still think that it's gonna
Maybe.
be cool,
Yep.
And
That's right.
so I know that it's not like you're not gonna like tell how many kids you're gonna have, just like the old palm readers and things like that,
Right. No.
which is so romantic. And how many times you're gonna be married and
Yeah. No, thank you.
all those things
Here's the
like that.
thing though. I've been asked several times, well, when am I going to meet Mr. Right? And I'm like, I have no idea, but I can tell you what to work on to make that more possible.
Yep, I love
Right.
that too. So that's another way could you see something like maybe unions, like twin flame unions or things, nothing like that. No.
Nope.
But go ahead.
I just said no. I can't.
No, nothing like that.
And I'm glad I can't, that's not in there. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, for sure. And then you have different, I'm just going to give some headers to give people ideas of what it gets into. So you have School of Love, you have independent thinking, bitter pill. What's the bitter pill?
Well, it's a mark that's down at the base of your hand.
Yeah.
So let's see which one is easiest to see. Yeah, it's really hard to see that on the camera, but down in here there can be a like a football shape of lines that form sort of a football standing on its end.
Yeah.
Way down at the bottom of your hand, and that's an indication of expectations that were put on you when you were young that were hard to swallow. That's why it's called a bitter pill. And it could be something like being bullied or having strict parents, all the way to something trauma or abuse. It can be anything in that spectrum. I don't know what it is. I can just see if it's happened.
Okay. And do you start with the left or the right hand, or does it matter, or do they work together, or how have you seen
They
this?
do. Like if I looked at just one hand, I'd only see half of you. And you mentioned, when somebody does get a hand analysis, I send out an envelope that has the ink sheets in there and the instructions. So, and then we get 2 1-hour Zoom calls together. So I have clients in 12 countries because I don't need to see them in person. And the handprints that they take are much easier to see than the bare hand.
Yeah.
Much easier to see the markings. And you mentioned School of Love. So the school is one of the 3 things that we get from the fingerprints. And it also is a more general marking because there's only 4 schools, but it's a huge part of who we are.
Yeah. And can you give us some, you have, things like, why am I here on the planet? Who am I at my core? What legacy am I meant to leave? Can you give us some examples of what you've seen, just so people can understand the depth of what you're talking about?
Oh, gosh. Well, let me use myself as an example. And by the way, just with fingerprints alone, there are well over 100 options. So it's not like where you're put in a box with, there's only 9 possibilities or 4 possibilities or 11 possibilities. There's a whole bunch. And then there are markings called gift markings, and they're indications of extra potential talent. They're pretty rare, but I tend to attract people with gift markings, and they're very important. So I take keywords from those and then create an expanded purpose statement. So there's the core piece that comes from just the fingerprints. That part of your purpose will never change. And then the expanded purpose, where I add in keywords of gift markings. So the core of my purpose is visionary leader and passionate advocate. So, I'm meant to be a leader, to create a realm to rule, to create and use my influence. And I was just like listening to this when I got my first hand analysis. And, some people just float to the top, that, the teachers or where you work just pull you out to put you in heads of committees and things. That always happened to me. So, I've kind of been a leader all my life. And the passionate advocate is somebody who is really meant to know what their desires and passions are and intentionally bring them into your life and work, and advocate for yourself to do that, and advocate for others to do that as well. So it's interesting. What that means is, really, for me to make a difference in the world, I am required to love my life and love my work. So, and that's also, I also have another business in the travel business, and it fits right in alignment with that, because I love to travel, and I'm helping people who love to travel more, less expensively. So that, that's right in alignment with a passionate advocate. Now, when I got this, I also have several gift markings. What I learned, bottom line, Gina, was that I needed to work more deeply with people. That was in 2011 when I got my first hand analysis, and then started studying it right away. And I had been in the corporate world, and then I had a speaking business where I was, doing workshops and helping people, but it wasn't one-on-one, and it wasn't deep enough.
Yeah, I can see that.
So,
I can understand that.
yeah,
You were kind of maybe following one line in the corporate world. Literally, you just kind of work with the people around you and do your job and things like that. But
yeah,
it's a whole different thing where you're helping someone find their life path, or getting them out of a
yes,
stuck situation, and energetically, when you found this passion, what I try to explain to people, I was also in the corporate, I was in entertainment and technology for 25 years, so I understand. And I got into the field because I went deep into my own healing, and then I was like, I want to share everything with everyone.
yeah,
So I that was where I was supposed to be. But that journey took a really long time.
yeah.
And I did go to a lot of different healers and people that, and find different things. And I would definitely think that, I would have loved to have met you at that time when I really especially needed, some guidance on that. I did have a clairvoyant friend who used to um, draw my hand, and every year for my birthday, she could see energies and colors in it, and she could kind of give me a little bit of maybe what you, and it really did help me. It was really beautiful artwork
Good.
almost, but it just reminds me a little bit of yours. Was kind of different, but it just was so, I used to keep those as artwork that I would have
I
forever,
bet. Yeah.
and yeah, it's just so beautiful. So this is something that you can kind of, it's a life path, right? So you just kind of hold on to it, and then you might not even understand or realize a part of what you express to someone, and then maybe down the road, all of a sudden it clicks in for them.
Very possible.
Yeah.
And I used to work closely with people. What I did after hand analysis was coaching. I did purpose coaching, law of attraction coaching, and spiritual life coaching. And those three threaded together really well. So I helped people identify options that fit their purpose if they couldn't figure it out. I don't do the coaching anymore. But sometimes with the hand analysis on the second call, which is to answer questions and go deeper, if somebody says, well, would this fit my purpose? I can tell them yes or no, because everybody has options.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I certainly try to help in that way. But yeah, people know whether or not they're in alignment with their purpose. If they have to ask, they're not.
That's a good point.
Right, because you just know it. But I would say well more than half of the world is not on purpose. And
And there,
doesn't mean they're not fabulous people. It's just,
yeah,
look how long it took me, a lot longer than it took you to figure it out.
yeah. but I feel like people are waking up to that.
Mhm.
That shift with the pandemic, man, made everybody just want to live a more fulfilled life with better relationships.
Yep.
Uh, we are, and we all have to help each other. We're transitioning, and there's where relationships are changing, jobs are changing, the world is changing. We're gonna go through some stuff. We got stuff coming
Oh
down,
yeah.
and
Oh yeah.
the more we can kind of like be in our true purpose, we can at least jump out of bed and say, for me, that's the huge difference, is going like, oh, I can't wait till Friday. Oh my gosh, it's Monday. That whole thing that I lived for so long, as in like on Friday, you're like, woohoo. And then all of a sudden you get to have a couple days. But during those couple days, you're in constant fear of that following Monday coming up. And not saying it's all bad. Usually there's some good, good in what you're doing, but then it's just like, oh, you
Yeah.
always get to this point where you just feel like you're up against a wall, and you can't see beyond that wall anymore, and you just feel so there's where the hopelessness starts to come in. And I think it affects every relationship in your life. Your partner,
Absolutely.
all of a sudden you start picking them apart because you're not happy, and you're not even realizing that you're doing that to them. I pay most of the bills, and things that you really like. If
Yeah.
you were doing your life purpose, you'd just be like, oh, take it, have it. Or you just go in a different energy when you're more.
I agree. And it's, people think they can compartmentalize things, but they really can't. And one thing I want to mention, we're talking about the fingerprints. There are three big pieces of information that come from the fingerprints. One is the core of your purpose. Another is the life school that I mentioned, which is kind of like if you were a computer, it's your operating system. It's the lens through which we experience life and make a lot of decision. The school is, and it also identifies some of our natural talents as well as some of the learning we need in order to fulfill our purpose. I guess that's why it's called a school. And then the third thing is so important, and it's called the life lesson. The life lesson is the number one thing, the greatest obstacle keeping us from living in alignment with our purpose and experiencing that deep joy and fulfillment. So, learning the life lesson is worth the whole thing because
Yeah.
it's the thing to really focus on. And oh, I can't even remember. I'm sure there's been a few of clients who did not recognize, oh, yeah, that's an issue for me. But what they don't realize is how much it's impacting them 360 in all aspects of their life. So, those, I call them the three biggies, the purpose, the school, and the lesson. And that's just the fingerprints.
Well, I think what I've really realized in this session, though, is how our soul comes in, like you said, beautifully manifested in a beautiful womb. Uh, 14 to 16 weeks as the fingerprints are created. I'm just, I don't know. I mean, I'm just getting this interesting vision about how, our path is being created at that moment,
Yep.
and the things that we've chose to experience are coming in at that moment. And why would the fingerprints not change, but everything else can? I think that's just, it's almost like a really interesting blueprint of what's to come and where we can go. And if we're lost at all, this is a great blueprint to look at and take
Yeah.
a yeah.
Blueprint's a good word, and it's like a lighthouse to follow. I mean, it just, explains so much, just explains so much. There was
Well, I
some,
want to encourage anybody to pick up your book, Twists, Turns, and Truths. It's beautifully written. She has a deep connection with horses and her relationships with horses, and I actually got pretty teary-eyed on a few of them. That was your blue was really like got to me, and I really feel like horses are such amazing. You know what I mean?
they
That's a
heal
part.
us. They heal us.
Oh, they absolutely do. And so thank you for your work with all the beautiful horses. And
Oh, you bet. I just rode
yeah.
this morning.
Oh, So you want to be able to give a to the listeners, anybody that wants to.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Yes, I want to offer a special price for your listeners. So if you go to my website, um, I'm about average for masters, my price, which
Yeah.
is $497 for the full hand analysis. So that's the kit and 2 hours with me and 2 recordings and a summer report. So
Wow.
the value is enormous.
Yeah.
But for listeners of the Liberated Healer, I will drop that by $100.
Oh, wow.
So you'll have to reach me through my website
Okay.
so that I can give them the special link, because you can't get that price on my website. And my
Okay.
website is purposewhisperer.com.
purposewhisperer.com, and it's going to be linked in the bottom of both audio and video formats, so you can find Jayne and myself anywhere and just check these things out.
I could give you the link to put in your notes too if you want.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, I'll
So
send it to you.
do you want to say any final words to our people listening?
No, well, yes, I don't care how good your life is now. If you take action on the information that's in your hands, it will only get better.
Only get better. I love that. Thank you so much, Jayne, for your time today.
I loved it, Gina. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, this has been the Liberated Healer, wishing you many blessings, love and kindness. Much love. Bye. Bye. Big hands.